Colonel Sarah Martinez was tired after a long day at the Army base. As the newly appointed head of the 4th Infantry Division, she had spent hours in meetings and planning sessions. Now, at 8:30 p.m., she just wanted to get home, take a hot shower, and go to bed. The rain fell hard on her car windshield as she drove carefully down Main Street. Sarah always followed the rules. She didn't speed. She used her turn signals. She was a model driver, just as she was a model soldier. 20 years in the Army had taught Sarah to be careful and exact in everything she did. Being a woman of color in a leadership position meant she always had to be better than good. She had to be perfect. At 42, she had earned her rank through hard work, smart choices, and never giving anyone a reason to doubt her. The red and blue lights flashing in her mirror surprised her. Sarah checked her speed. She was 5 miles under the limit because of the rain. She signaled and pulled over right away, turning down the radio and placing both hands on the steering wheel where they could be seen. She watched in her side mirror as a white police officer stepped out of his patrol car. He was tall with broad shoulders, and he walked with stiff, angry steps toward her car. Sarah felt a small worry grow in her stomach. Something didn't feel right. The officer stood by her window for a moment before she rolled it down. His face looked hard and unfriendly. His name tag read Wilkins. His hand rested on his gun, which seemed strange to Sarah. She hadn't done anything wrong. "License and registration," Officer Wilkins said. His voice was cold. "Of course, officer," Sarah said politely. "May I ask why you pulled me over?" Officer Wilkins' face changed. His eyes narrowed. "You people always think you can drive however you want, don't you? You were swerving all over the road." Sarah was shocked. She hadn't been swerving at all. "And what did he mean by you people?" "Officer, I don't think I was swerving. I've been driving very carefully because of the rain," she said calmly. "Are you saying I'm lying?" Officer Wilkins' voice got louder. "Step out of the car now." Sarah knew her rights, but she also knew that arguing with an angry police officer was dangerous. She nodded slowly. "I'll step out, but I want to let you know that I'm Colonel Sarah Martinez, head of the 4th Infantry Division at Fort Carson." Officer Wilkins laughed. "Sure you are. And I'm the president. Get out of the car now." Sarah opened her door slowly and stepped out into the rain. Her Army uniform was getting wet, but Officer Wilkins didn't seem to care. Cars drove by slowly, people watching what was happening. Sarah felt her face get hot with embarrassment. "Turn around and put your hands on the car," Officer Wilkins ordered. "Officer, I'd like to show you my military ID." "There's been a misunderstanding," Sarah said, still keeping her voice calm and respectful. Officer Wilkins grabbed her arm and pushed her against the car. "I said turn around. I don't care who you think you are." Sarah felt the cold metal of handcuffs on her wrists. This couldn't be happening. Not to her, not after everything she had worked for. But it was real. The rain soaked through her clothes as Officer Wilkins pushed her toward his patrol car. "You're under arrest for suspected DUI and resisting an officer," he said loudly enough for the people watching to hear. "I haven't been drinking at all," Sarah protested. "This is a mistake." But Officer Wilkins wasn't listening. He pushed her into the back seat of his patrol car and slammed the door. Through the window, Sarah watched him go back to her car. He opened the door and started searching it without her permission. When he found her Army jacket with her colonel insignia, he tossed it onto the wet ground. Sarah knew then that this wasn't about traffic laws. This was about something much worse. The ride to the police station was long and uncomfortable. Sarah sat in the back of Officer Wilkins' patrol car with her hands cuffed behind her. The plastic seat was hard, and every bump in the road made her shoulders hurt. Rain streaked down the windows, blurring the lights of the city. Officer Wilkins didn't speak to her during the drive. He called someone on his radio and said he was bringing in a difficult one who was playing the military card. Sarah could hardly believe what was happening. In 20 years of service, no one had ever treated her this way. When they reached the police station, Officer Wilkins roughly pulled Sarah from the car. The station was busy with officers and people who had been arrested. Everyone looked at Sarah in her wet, muddy uniform as Officer Wilkins pushed her through the door. "Got a DUI here who claimed she's some big Army officer," Officer Wilkins announced loudly. "Says she's a colonel. Can you believe that?" An older officer at the front desk looked up with tired eyes. His name tag read Garcia. He looked at Sarah carefully, then at Officer Wilkins. "What evidence of DUI do you have, Wilkins?" Officer Garcia asked. "She was swerving all over the road, and she gave me attitude when I questioned her," Officer Wilkins said. "Wouldn't be surprised if she has drugs in her car too." Sarah spoke up, keeping her voice steady. "Officer Garcia, I am Colonel Sarah Martinez, head of the 4th Infantry Division. I was not drinking or using drugs. I was driving carefully because of the rain. Officer Wilkins pulled me over without cause and refused to look at my military ID." Officer Garcia seemed unsure what to do. He looked at Officer Wilkins, who was his fellow officer, then back at Sarah. "Process her," Officer Wilkins insisted. "We'll sort it out later." Officer Garcia sighed and began the booking process. He took Sarah's fingerprints and photo. Each camera flash made Sarah think about how this would look to her soldiers if they could see their commander now. The thought made her stomach tight with worry and anger. "I have the right to make a phone call," Sarah said after the booking was done. Officer Wilkins laughed. "You'll get your call when I say you get it. Sit down over there." He pointed to a bench against the wall where 3 other people sat waiting. Sarah walked to the bench and sat down, her back straight, her face calm. She would not let Officer Wilkins see her afraid or angry. 2 hours passed. Sarah watched as other people were processed and either released or taken to cells. Officer Wilkins stayed at the station, talking and laughing with other officers. Sometimes he would look at Sarah and smirk. A young officer brought Sarah a paper cup of water. He looked nervous as he handed it to her. "Thank you," Sarah said. The young officer nodded quickly and walked away. Finally, Officer Garcia came over to Sarah. "You can make your call now," he said. Officer Wilkins appeared behind him. "Don't take too long. Your cell is waiting." Sarah was led to a phone on the wall. Officer Wilkins stood nearby, watching her. He probably thought she would call a lawyer or a family member. Sarah picked up the phone and took a deep breath. She knew exactly who to call. She dialed a number from memory and waited. After 3 rings, a deep voice answered. "General Harrison speaking." "General Harrison, this is Colonel Martinez," Sarah said clearly, looking straight at Officer Wilkins. "I'm sorry to disturb you so late, sir, but I've been wrongfully arrested and am being held at the Central Police Station downtown." Officer Wilkins' smirk faded. For the first time, he looked uncertain. "I believe I'm being targeted because of my race, sir," Sarah continued. "The arresting officer refused to check my military ID and has made several concerning comments." General Harrison's voice was calm but serious. "I understand, Colonel. Stay where you are. This will be handled immediately." As Sarah hung up the phone, Officer Wilkins' face had lost all its color. He knew then that he had made a terrible mistake. The police station was quiet for about 15 minutes after Sarah's phone call. Officer Wilkins tried to act normal, but he kept checking his watch and looking at the door. Sarah sat calmly on the bench, her back straight, waiting. She knew what was coming. "You're bluffing," Officer Wilkins finally said, walking over to Sarah. "You don't know any general." Sarah didn't answer. She just looked at him with steady eyes. This made Officer Wilkins even more nervous. "Take her to cell 3, he told Officer Garcia. "She can see the judge in the morning." Before Officer Garcia could move, the front door of the station swung open. A tall man in a dark suit walked in, followed by 2 military police officers in uniform. The man in the suit looked around the room until he saw Sarah. "Colonel Martinez?" he asked, walking straight to her. "Yes, sir," Sarah answered, standing up. "I'm David Chin, General Harrison's Chief of Staff." The general sends his apologies for not coming personally. He's on the phone with the mayor and the police commissioner right now. Officer Wilkins' face turned pale. The other officers in the station stopped what they were doing and stared. "Remove those handcuffs immediately," Mr. Chen ordered. Officer Garcia quickly took the keys and unlocked Sarah's handcuffs. Sarah rubbed her sore wrists and nodded thanks to him. "Who's in charge here?" Mr. Chen asked, looking around the room. "Captain Reynolds is the senior officer on duty," Officer Garcia said. "I'll get him right away." As Officer Garcia hurried away, Officer Wilkins tried to slip toward the back door. One of the military police officers stepped in his way. "Officer Wilkins, I believe," the MP said. "You'll need to stay. There are questions that need answers." Captain Reynolds, a gray-haired man with a serious face, came out of his office. He looked confused and worried. "What's going on here?" he asked. Mr. Chen handed him a folder. "Sir, I have here Colonel Sarah Martinez's service record, including her current position as head of the 4th Infantry Division. She was illegally detained by one of your officers." Captain Reynolds opened the folder, and his eyes grew wide as he read. He looked at Sarah with new respect. "Colonel Martinez, I apologize for this situation," Captain Reynolds said. "We will get to the bottom of this." "I want to see the patrol car video," Sarah said. "Officer Wilkins claimed I was swerving and possibly drunk. The video will show the truth." Captain Reynolds nodded. "Of course. Please come to my office. We'll review it right now." Officer Wilkins stepped forward. "Sir, that's not necessary. I think we can." "Officer Wilkins, you are suspended effective immediately," Captain Reynolds cut him off. "Turn in your badge and gun." The room went completely silent. Officer Wilkins stood frozen, his face showing shock and anger. "This is because of her," he finally said, pointing at Sarah. "You're taking her word over mine." "No," Captain Reynolds said firmly. "This is standard procedure when a serious complaint is made. The evidence will speak for itself." In Captain Reynolds' office, Sarah sat with Mr. Chen and watched the patrol car video. It clearly showed Sarah's car driving normally, staying in its lane, using proper signals. There was no swerving, no traffic violations at all. "Just as I thought," Mr. Chen said. "A clear case of racial profiling." Captain Reynolds looked sick as he watched. "Colonel Martinez, on behalf of the department, I am deeply sorry. This should never have happened." Sarah nodded but didn't smile. "It shouldn't happen to anyone, Captain. Not just to me because of my rank." The phone on Captain Reynolds' desk rang. He answered it, and his face changed. "Yes, sir. Yes, the mayor is here. The police commissioner, too. I understand. We'll be ready." He hung up and looked at Sarah. "The mayor and police commissioner are on their way here now. General Harrison's call has set things in motion at the highest levels." Sarah nodded. This was just the beginning. The police station buzzed with nervous energy. News had spread that the mayor and police commissioner were coming. Officers straightened their uniforms and cleaned up messy desks. No one wanted to look bad in front of the city's top leaders. Sarah sat in Captain Reynolds' office, drinking a cup of hot tea that someone had brought her. Her uniform was still damp from the rain, but Mr. Chen had given her his suit jacket to wear over her shoulders. The two military police officers stood by the door, straight and alert. "Colonel Martinez, would you like to change into dry clothes?" Captain Reynolds asked. "We can find something for you to wear." "No, thank you," Sarah said. "I want the mayor and commissioner to see exactly how I was treated." Outside the office window, Sarah could see Officer Wilkins sitting alone at a desk. Other officers avoided him. He had given up his badge and gun, and now he just stared at the floor. For a moment, Sarah felt a small bit of pity for him. Then she remembered how he had thrown her military jacket into the mud and called her, "you people." The pity went away. 20 minutes later, the front door opened. The mayor walked in first. She was a short woman with gray hair and a serious face. Behind her came the police commissioner, a tall black man in his 50s with a military-style haircut. Captain Reynolds rushed to meet them. Mayor Wilson, Commissioner Taylor, thank you for coming so quickly, Captain Reynolds said. When the chairman of the Joint Chiefs calls you directly, you move fast, Mayor Wilson said. She looked around until she saw Sarah. Is that Colonel Martinez? Yes, Mom, Captain Reynolds said. Mayor Wilson walked straight to Sarah, who stood up to greet her. Colonel Martinez, I'm Mayor Susan Wilson. This is Police Commissioner James Taylor. On behalf of our city, I want to apologize for what happened to you tonight. Sarah shook their hands. Thank you for coming, Mayor Wilson, Commissioner Taylor. Commissioner Taylor looked angry. I understand you were pulled over without cause, arrested without evidence, and treated disrespectfully because of your race. Yes, sir, that's correct, Sarah said. And I believe this isn't the first time Officer Wilkins has done this. Commissioner Taylor nodded. We've had complaints before, but nothing this serious, and never with such clear evidence. He turned to Captain Reynolds. I want to see that patrol car video now. They all watched the video again. It clearly showed Sarah driving normally, then being pulled over for no reason. The car's microphone had also recorded Officer Wilkins' words. You people always think you can drive however you want. The mayor closed her eyes for a moment when she heard those words. Commissioner Taylor's jaw tightened. There's more, Captain Reynolds said. He played the video from inside the station, showing how Officer Wilkins had treated Sarah after the arrest. When the videos ended, the room was quiet. Then Commissioner Taylor spoke. Officer Wilkins is fired, effective immediately. Captain Reynolds, please begin the paperwork. And I want a full review of all his arrests for the past 5 years. Yes, sir, Captain Reynolds said. Mayor Wilson turned to Sarah. Colonel Martinez, is there anything else we can do for you tonight? Sarah thought for a moment. Yes, there is. I want to know if other people who don't have my connections have been treated this way. And I want to know what you plan to do to stop it from happening again. The mayor and commissioner looked at each other. They knew this wasn't just about one night or one arrest. Colonel, would you be willing to meet with us tomorrow? Commissioner Taylor asked. I think your experience and military leadership background could help us make real changes in our police department. Sarah nodded. I would be happy to help, sir. Just then, Sarah's phone rang. She looked at the screen. It's General Harrison, she said. He probably wants an update. The mayor and commissioner stood straighter. Even they respected the power of the Joint Chiefs chairman. Sarah answered the call, knowing that this night had become much more important than just her own experience. Sarah held the phone to her ear as everyone in the room watched with interest. Yes, General Harrison, I'm safe now, Sarah said. The mayor and police commissioner are here with me. She listened for a moment. Yes, sir, I'll put you on speaker. Sarah pressed a button on her phone and placed it on the desk. General Harrison, you're on speaker with Mayor Wilson, Police Commissioner Taylor, and Captain Reynolds, Sarah said. Good evening, everyone. General Harrison's deep voice filled the room. Thank you for responding so quickly to this situation. It's our duty, General, Mayor Wilson said. We're deeply sorry about what happened to Colonel Martinez. I appreciate that, General Harrison said. But I'm more interested in what happens next. Colonel Martinez is one of our finest officers. If she can be treated this way, I worry about ordinary citizens who don't have direct lines to people like me. Commissioner Taylor nodded, even though the general couldn't see him. We share that concern, sir. I've already ordered a full review of Officer Wilkins' past arrests. Good start, General Harrison said, but I think we can do more. Colonel Martinez has extensive experience in leadership training and community relations. I'd like to offer her help in reviewing your department's practices. The mayor looked at Sarah with new interest. We would welcome that, General. After the call ended, everyone sat quietly for a moment. Sarah felt the weight of what was happening. What had started as a simple drive home had turned into something much bigger. Colonel, Commissioner Taylor said, breaking the silence, Would you be willing to work with us for a few weeks? You could help us see problems we might be missing. I have leave time available, Sarah said. I'd be happy to help. The next morning, Sarah arrived at the police headquarters wearing her full Army uniform with all her medals and ribbons. As she walked through the building with Commissioner Taylor, officers stopped and stared. Some looked nervous. Others seemed curious or even hopeful. In a large conference room, Sarah met the police department's leadership team. The commissioner introduced her and explained why she was there. Colonel Martinez is going to help us review our training and community engagement practices, he said. I expect everyone to give her full cooperation. A white-haired police captain raised his hand. With all due respect, Commissioner, why do we need an Army officer to tell us how to do our jobs? Sarah wasn't surprised by the question. She'd faced similar resistance in the Army when she suggested changes. I'm not here to tell you how to be police officers, Sarah said calmly. I'm here because sometimes an outside perspective helps us see blind spots. In the Army, we call it fresh eyes review. She walked to a whiteboard and picked up a marker. Let me share something we use in the military. We have a saying, train like you fight, because you'll fight like you train. Sarah wrote the words on the board. This means that habits formed in training, good or bad, will show up in real situations when stress is high. She turned to face the room. Last night, Officer Wilkins' first words to me were, "You people always think you can drive however you want." That didn't come from nowhere. It came from patterns of thinking that were never corrected. The room was quiet. Some officers looked uncomfortable, but they were listening. My goal isn't to criticize, Sarah continued. My goal is to help build better patterns, better training, and better outcomes for both officers and the community you serve. By lunchtime, Sarah had won over most of the skeptics. Her direct but respectful approach made it clear she wasn't there to attack them. She was there to help make things better. As she reviewed training materials that afternoon, Sarah felt a sense of purpose. What happened to her was terrible, but it might lead to changes that would help many others. Sometimes, she thought, the worst experiences create the best opportunities to make a difference. 1 week into Sarah's work with the police department, she made a troubling discovery. She was reviewing arrest records from the past 5 years when she noticed a pattern in Officer Wilkins' arrests. Over 80% of the people he had stopped and arrested were people of color, even though the city's population was only 30% minorities. Sarah took her findings to Commissioner Taylor. She spread the papers on his desk and showed him the numbers. This is worse than I expected, Commissioner Taylor said, looking at the data, and these 6 cases are especially concerning. Sarah nodded. In each of these arrests, the charges were dropped later due to lack of evidence. But the people still spent time in jail, paid for lawyers, and now have arrest records that can affect their jobs and lives. Commissioner Taylor ran his hand over his face. We need to make this right. That afternoon, they called a meeting with the city's legal team. Sarah presented her findings, and the lawyers agreed that the 6 cases showed clear evidence of racial profiling. We should contact these individuals and offer a formal apology, the head lawyer said. And we should clear their records. We need to do more than that, Sarah said. These people lost jobs, missed important events, and suffered emotional harm because of what happened to them. The mayor, who had joined the meeting, nodded. Colonel Martinez is right. We need to make proper amends. Let's set up a special fund to compensate these individuals. As they worked on the plan, Sarah thought about the people affected by Officer Wilkins' actions. She wondered how many other officers in other cities were doing the same thing. The problem was bigger than one bad officer. The next day, Sarah was in her temporary office when there was a knock at the door. A young woman stood there, looking nervous. Colonel Martinez, I'm Officer Lisa Chen. I was hoping I could talk to you. Sarah smiled. Come in, Officer Chen. How can I help you? Officer Chen sat down and twisted her hands in her lap. I've been watching your work here. The changes you're making, they're good, but there's something you should know. Go on, Sarah said gently. Officer Wilkins wasn't the only one with problems, Officer Chen said. There's a group of officers who called themselves the Old Guard. They targeted certain neighborhoods and people. Officer Wilkins was just the most obvious about it. Sarah leaned forward. Do you have proof? Officer Chen nodded and pulled out a small notebook. I've been keeping track of incidents for the past year. I was afraid to come forward before. No one would listen to a rookie, especially an Asian female rookie. Sarah took the notebook. This is brave of you, Officer Chen. Very brave. Will I get in trouble? Officer Chen asked. No, Sarah said firmly. You'll be protected. We need good officers like you who are willing to stand up for what's right. That evening, Sarah met with Commissioner Taylor and showed him Officer Chen's notebook. The commissioner looked both angry and sad as he read through it. This goes deeper than I thought, he said finally. We may need to rebuild parts of this department from the ground up. Sarah nodded. In the Army, we sometimes have to tear down to rebuild better. Commissioner Taylor looked at Sarah with respect. You know, when General Harrison first suggested you help us, I thought it would be a quick review and some basic recommendations. I didn't expect all this. Neither did I, Sarah admitted. But now that we've found these problems, we can't ignore them. No, we can't. Commissioner Taylor agreed. And I'm beginning to think your traffic stop that night, as awful as it was, might end up helping this city in ways none of us could have imagined. Sarah smiled slightly. Sometimes good things came from bad situations, and sometimes one person's stand could create change for many. 2 weeks after the night of Sarah's arrest, the city held a special community meeting. The mayor had invited leaders from all parts of the city, especially from neighborhoods that had problems with the police. The meeting was held in the big room at the community center. Every seat was filled, and people stood along the walls. Sarah sat next to Commissioner Taylor at the front of the room. She wore her Army uniform again, but this time by choice. She wanted people to see that someone with authority cared about their concerns. Mayor Wilson opened the meeting. Thank you all for coming tonight. As you may have heard, we recently had a serious incident involving one of our police officers and Colonel Sarah Martinez of the United States Army. She gestured to Sarah. This incident has led us to discover patterns of unfair treatment that cannot continue. The room was quiet. People watched with careful eyes. Many had heard stories about Colonel Martinez and what happened to her. I'd like Colonel Martinez to share what we've learned and what we plan to do about it, the mayor said. Sarah stood and walked to the microphone. She looked out at the crowd. Many faces showed doubt and anger. They had heard promises before. 2 weeks ago, I was driving home in the rain when Officer James Wilkins pulled me over, Sarah began. He didn't know I was a colonel in the Army. He only saw the color of my skin. He spoke to me with disrespect, threw my military jacket in the mud, and arrested me without cause. People in the audience nodded. Some had experienced similar treatment. But my story is different from many of yours because I had one thing most of you don't have. Sarah continued. I had the phone number of General Harrison, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. One phone call changed everything for me. Sarah paused and looked around the room. That's not right. Justice shouldn't depend on who you know. A woman in the front row called out. So what are you going to do about it? Sarah nodded at the question. First, we've identified 6 people who were wrongly arrested by Officer Wilkins. They will receive formal apologies, their records will be cleared, and they will be compensated for their trouble. This got people's attention. The room became even quieter. Second, with the help of brave officers like Lisa Chen, we've identified a group of officers who regularly targeted people based on race. Those officers are being investigated now. Sarah pointed to a stack of papers on a table. Third, we're creating new training programs for all officers. These programs will focus on fair treatment, community understanding, and building trust. An older man stood up. We've heard promises before. Why should we believe anything will change? That's a fair question, Sarah said. Words mean nothing without action. That's why I've agreed to stay in this city for 6 months to help build this new program. And that's why we're forming a citizen oversight committee with real power to review police actions. A young woman raised her hand. Will you be on that committee, Colonel? No, Sarah said. This committee needs to be made up of people from the community. People like you who live here every day. I will help train the committee, but the power needs to be in your hands. For the first time that evening, people began to look hopeful. They had never heard a plan this detailed before. After the meeting, people lined up to talk to Sarah. Some wanted to share their own stories of unfair treatment. Others wanted to volunteer for the oversight committee. A few just wanted to thank her for caring. As Sarah listened to person after person, she realized how important this work was. Her wrongful arrest had opened a door that might have stayed closed for years. Sometimes the worst moments in life led to the most important work. 3 months had passed since Sarah's wrongful arrest. The changes in the city's police department were starting to show real results. Complaints about police behavior had dropped by 30%. More importantly, people in all neighborhoods were beginning to trust their local officers again. Sarah's 6-month assignment was halfway done. She worked long days at the police headquarters, helping train officers and build new programs. The Citizen Oversight Committee was now meeting regularly, with 15 members from different parts of the city. One morning, Sarah received a surprising phone call from General Harrison. Colonel Martinez, your work in that city has caught national attention, he said. Police departments in 3 other major cities have asked if you could help them create similar programs. Sarah was surprised. Sir, I'm flattered, but I can't be in 4 places at once. General Harrison chuckled. No, but you can create a training program that others can use. I'd like you to develop a formal curriculum based on what you've learned. We'll call it the Community Trust Initiative. Sarah thought about it. That would mean extending my time away from my Army duties. Consider this your new duty for now, General Harrison said. The President himself has expressed interest in your work. After the call, Sarah sat quietly at her desk. What had started as a terrible night was turning into something much bigger than she had ever imagined. That afternoon, Sarah met with Commissioner Taylor to share the news. So we're going to be a national model, he asked, looking both proud and amazed. It seems that way, Sarah said. But first, we need to make sure our own program is solid. We still have work to do here. Commissioner Taylor nodded. The old guard officers are fighting the changes. They've hired lawyers and are claiming they did nothing wrong. Sarah wasn't surprised. Change was never easy, especially for people who had done things the same way for years. Let the evidence speak for itself, she said. We have the data and the video records. Later that week, Sarah was invited to speak at the police academy to a class of new recruits. These young men and women would be the future of the department. As she looked at their eager faces, she felt hopeful. Your job is one of the hardest in the world, Sarah told them. You'll make split-second decisions that can change lives forever. You'll see people at their worst moments. You'll face danger and stress that most people never experience. The recruits listened carefully. They had heard about Colonel Martinez and her work. But you also have a chance to build trust, Sarah continued. Every interaction you have is a chance to show that the law protects everyone equally. That's what makes this job not just hard, but also important. After her talk, a young female recruit approached Sarah. Colonel, your story is what made me want to become an officer. I want to be part of the change. Sarah smiled. What's your name? Maria Diaz, the young woman said. Well, Officer Diaz, I think you're exactly what this department needs. That evening, Sarah received an email from a woman named Tanya Williams. The name seemed familiar, but Sarah couldn't place it. She opened the message and began to read. Dear Colonel Martinez, you don't know me, but I was one of the 6 people wrongfully arrested by Officer Wilkins. When I got the letter from the city clearing my record and offering compensation, I cried for an hour. That arrest cost me my job and nearly ruined my life. Because of you, I not only got justice, but I was able to apply to nursing school, which had been my dream for years. Sarah felt tears in her eyes as she finished reading. This was why the work mattered. This was why that terrible night of her arrest had been worth it. One person could make a difference. 1 year had passed since the night Officer Wilkins had pulled Sarah over in the rain. So much had changed since then. Sarah now stood on a stage in Washington, D.C., looking out at a room filled with police chiefs and community leaders from across the country. The Community Trust Initiative has now been adopted by 57 police departments nationwide. Sarah said into the microphone, "Early results show complaints down by an average of 40% in these departments." The audience applauded. Among them was Commissioner Taylor, who had traveled to Washington to support Sarah. Next to him sat Mayor Wilson, who smiled proudly. After Sarah's speech, the president himself came to the stage to shake her hand. Cameras flashed as they spoke quietly for a moment. Sarah felt honored but also humble. She knew this success wasn't just because of her. Later that evening, Sarah attended a special dinner in her honor. As she entered the room, she saw familiar faces. There was Officer Lisa Chen, who had bravely come forward with her notebook of incidents. There was Maria Diaz, now a full officer who was leading the youth outreach program. And there, at a table near the front, was Tanya Williams, who had just graduated from nursing school. Sarah went from table to table, greeting people she had met during this journey. Each person had a story to tell about how the program had changed their community for the better. When dinner was over, Sarah was surprised to see one more person approach her table. It was a man she didn't recognize at first. He looked nervous and uncomfortable in his suit. "Colonel Martinez," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I'm James Wilkins, the former officer who arrested you that night." Sarah felt a moment of shock. She hadn't seen Wilkins since the night of her arrest. She knew he had been fired and had faced a hearing about his conduct. "Mr. Wilkins," she said calmly, "this is unexpected." He nodded. "I know. I wouldn't blame you if you asked me to leave. But I wanted to tell you something in person." Sarah waited, watching his face. He looked different now, older, humbler. "You were right about me," he said. "I was treating people unfairly. I didn't see it then, but I see it now. After I lost my job, I had a lot of time to think about what I'd done." He took a deep breath. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I've changed. I'm working with a community group now, talking to young officers about my mistakes, trying to keep them from going down the same wrong path." Sarah hadn't expected this. She had never thought about what had happened to Wilkins after that night. "That takes courage," she said finally, "using your experience to help others make better choices." Wilkins looked surprised at her response. "Thank you for saying that. What you've built here, this whole program, it's going to help a lot of people. I just wanted you to know that it even helped me." After Wilkins left, Sarah stood by a window, looking out at the lights of Washington. She thought about how one terrible night had led to all of this. She thought about the letter from General Harrison that sat in her hotel room, offering her a promotion and a new assignment leading military police cooperation programs nationwide. Sometimes life's hardest moments led to unexpected opportunities. Sometimes one person standing up for what was right could start changes that helped thousands of others. Sarah had never planned to become a symbol or a leader of a national movement. She had just wanted to drive home in the rain that night. But now she saw that her experience, painful as it was, had opened a door that needed to be opened. As she looked out at the city lights, Sarah felt grateful. What had begun with one unfair traffic stop had become something that would help communities across the entire country.